Has you ever stopped to think if the price you pay for, say, something imported, is actually fair?
Fair, not just to you, but, within the whole system of global trade rules.
Exactly. Because it turns out there's this high-stakes game of cat and mouse going on right at the borders.
Yeah, some companies are getting, pretty creative trying to avoid paying the taxes they owe on goods coming into the U.S.
And the U.S. government. They're definitely paying attention and stepping up efforts to catch them.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to the Daily Download. I'm Ian.
And I'm Anandra.
Today, we're really going to get into how companies try to sidestep U.S. tariffs.
Looking at the sometimes surprising methods they use and what the government's actually doing to push back against this customs fraud.
Okay, so let's maybe start right at the beginning. What exactly are tariffs?
Put simply, they're just taxes. Taxes on goods brought in from other countries.
And they've become a really, really big tool in U.S. trade policy recently, haven't they?
Absolutely. And what's kind of striking is these aren't just minor fees. The money collected, the duties, it's a huge source of government revenue.
How huge are we talking?
Well, think about this. In 2021, I think it was, the duties collected hit around $80 billion.
$80 billion. Wow.
Yeah. That made it the third largest source of federal revenue, only behind income and payroll taxes.
Okay, that puts it in perspective. So you can see the incentive then.
Right. The higher those tariffs climb, the more attractive it becomes for companies to try and find a way around paying them.
But we should be clear, this isn't just like clever accounting, trying to dodge these duties through deception. That's fraud, customs fraud.
Definitely. So how are they trying to pull it off? What are the methods?
Well, looking into it, a few main strategies pop up. One big one is just misclassifying the product itself.
Right. Because the tariffs depend so much on exactly what a product is made of, how it's built.
Huh?
There's this incredibly detailed system. It's called the Harmonized Tariff Schedule, or HTS.
HTS.
It's basically this massive, comprehensive list classifying, every possible type of product you could import.
So the idea is to lie about the details. Make your product fit into a category on that HTS list that just happens to have lower tariffs.
Exactly. Like, imagine you have a shirt, it's really made of polyester,
Right.
but you report it as being made of cotton if cotton has a lower tariff rate.
Seems simple, but I guess the paperwork and descriptions could get pretty manipulated.
For sure. And we saw some cases where companies got caught doing this.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, there was one involving International Vitamins Corporation, IVC. They ended up settling allegations.
What was the claim there?
The claim was they'd misclassified stuff coming in from China for years, making it seem duty-free, even after apparently being told they were using the wrong codes.
And there was another one.
Yes, Samsung C&T America, or SCTA. They resolved a lawsuit, too. That one claimed they misclassified imported footwear.
Based on what?
Based on the materials, how it was put together. And what seemed notable there was the suggestion that they kind of had reason to know the information they gave customs wasn't right. They didn't verify it properly, allegedly.
Oh, okay, so that's misclassification. What's another technique?
Undervaluing the product. This one's pretty straightforward, too.
So just saying it's worth less than it is.
Exactly. Because
Right.
a lot of tariffs are calculated as a percentage of the product's value. Those are called ad valorem duties.
Ad valorem.
Yeah.
Percent of value.
So yeah, the lower you claim the value is, the lower your tax bill. Companies might just lie about the price they actually paid.
Is that where that term dual invoicing comes in?
It can be, yeah. That's where you have like two sets of books almost. One fake invoice with a low price just for customs.
Uh-huh.
And then the real invoice with the actual higher price for the real transaction between the buyer and seller.
Sneaky. Any examples of that?
Definitely. There was a case with Homestar North America LLC. They settled allegations that they and their Chinese parent company basically worked together to underreport the value of furniture they were importing.
Using those fake lower invoices?
That was the allegation, yeah. And apparently this became a bigger issue right after those Section 301 tariffs kicked in, raising costs on Chinese goods.
Ah, okay. Makes sense.
And another one, Alexis LLC, an apparel company. They resolved claims they misreported the value of imported clothes because they left out certain costs.
Like what?
Things like the cost of the fabric itself or trims when they declared the value to customs. Those should have been included.
Gotcha. So misclassification, undervaluing. Well, what's the third main method?
This one can get pretty involved, misrepresenting the country of origin or using something called transshipment.
Okay, why is the country of origin so important?
Because a lot of specific, often higher tariffs are tied directly to where the product was actually made. Think things like anti-dumping and countervailing duties, ADCVD orders.
Right, those target-specific countries accused of unfair trade practices.
Exactly. Or those Section 301 tariffs we mentioned, which are often country-specific too, like the ones on goods from China.
So transshipment is about hiding the real origin.
Pretty much. It's basically sending the goods through a third country, one that doesn't have those high tariffs, just to make it look like they came from there instead of the actual country of manufacture.
How do they do that? Just change the labels?
Sometimes, yeah. Slap fake made-in labels on things, or maybe just fail to mark the origin correctly at all.
Any cases on that? The examples really help picture it.
Oh, yeah. Kong Tools LLC. They and their German parent settled allegations about tools.
What was the issue?
The tools were actually made in China, but allegedly they were labeled made in Germany after only some minimal work was done on them in Germany.
And the point was to avoid
a specific 25% tariff that applied to the Chinese-made tools, apparently.
Wow.
And then there was a criminal case that really shows the scale here. Kenneth Fleming and Nicole Mosaics.
The whole case. Okay.
They pleaded guilty. They tried to smuggle porcelain mosaic tiles that were made in China.
I claimed they were from somewhere else.
From Malaysia. And why Malaysia? Because doing that let them dodge some extremely high ADCVD duties, plus other tariffs that were slapped on those specific Chinese tiles.
How high are we talking?
Get this. The amount of unpaid duties on just one single shipment in that case was over $1 million.
One shipment. Over $1 million in avoided taxes.
Yep. It just shows how much money can be riding on these kinds of schemes.
Incredible. Okay, so companies are using these methods, misclassifying, undervaluing, hiding the origin. It sounds pretty sophisticated sometimes. What's the U.S. government actually doing to fight back?
Well, it definitely looks like there's a ramped-up focus from the government side.
How so?
One really notable thing is that the Department of Justice, the DOJ, recently flagged trade and customs fraud, including tariff evasion, as a new priority area.
A priority for what?
For their white-collar criminal prosecutions. That's a pretty clear signal they're taking this much more seriously now.
Okay, that makes sense.
What else? Whistleblowers seem to be playing a massive role in bringing these things to light.
People inside the companies or who know about the fraud?
Exactly. And the DOJ is actually tweaking its Corporate Whistleblower Awards pilot program specifically to cover trade, tariff, and customs fraud now, offering financial rewards, bounties to people who report it.
Interesting. So incentivizing people to come forward.
Yeah, and there's also the False Claims Act. You might hear it called the Qui Tam statute.
Qui Tam, what does that do?
It's a law that lets private individuals, they're called relators in this context, sue companies on behalf of the government if they have evidence of false claims being made against the government.
Like false import declarations.
Precisely. And if the government recovers money because of that lawsuit, the whistleblower, the relator, can get a share of that recovery, sometimes a pretty significant share.
Huh. So it really pays to blow the whistle, potentially.
It can. And if you look back at those cases we mentioned earlier, IVC, Samsung, King Kong, Homestar, Alexis, a lot of those actually started out as whistleblower lawsuits under the False Claims Act.
Really? So it shows how critical those individuals are in uncovering this stuff that might otherwise stay hidden.
Absolutely. Without them, much of this might never see the light of day.
And the consequences when companies do get caught sounds like they can be pretty steep based on those case outcomes.
Yeah, they seem pretty significant. We saw those multi-million-dollar settlements you mentioned. IVC was over $22 million.
Right.
Samsung resolved its False Claims Act case. There was even a massive Ford Motor Company case. They paid $365 million.
Wow, Ford. What was that about?
That involved allegations of misclassifying cargo vans to avoid higher duties and understating their value, too.
Okay. And the others?
King Kong settled for $1.9 million, Homestar for nearly $800,000. Alexis LLC agreed to pay around $7.7 million.
So, serious money.
Definitely. And don't forget the Nicole Mosaics case that wasn't just money, that ended in a criminal conviction and an order to pay restitution. That means potential jail time for individuals involved, too.
Right. It's not just the company's bottom line at stake.
Not at all. Though it's probably worth adding, while we focused on deliberate fraud, these regulations themselves, especially around classifying goods and figuring out the country of origin, they are incredibly complex.
Yeah, I can imagine that HTS list isn't light reading.
Not exactly. So it's possible that even companies trying to do the right thing could make mistakes, which really just highlights how crucial it is for businesses involved in importing to invest in good resources, training, and really solid compliance programs.
To try and avoid mistakes, intentional or not.
Right. And we even saw, I think it was in the Alexis LLC settlement, they actually got some credit, some benefit for cooperating with the investigation and putting better compliance measures in place afterwards.
Okay, so cooperation in fixing the problem helps.
It seems like it can. That being said, the materials did also mention some challenges on the enforcement side,
Like what?
like the DOJ potentially needing more resources to actually investigate and prosecute what seems to be a growing number of these pretty complex cases.
Right, catching this stuff probably isn't easy or cheap.
Probably not.
Okay, so let's sort of pull this together. We've looked at how companies might try to evade U.S. tariffs using some pretty inventive, sometimes outright deceptive strategies.
Yeah, the main ones seem to be misclassifying products to get lower tax rates, undervaluing the shipments to reduce the base amount the tax is calculated on.
Right, and then misrepresenting where the goods actually came from, often using that transshipment method, routing things through a third country.
And on the flip side, the U.S. government, especially the DOJ, is clearly making this a bigger priority.
Trying to crack down on it. And crucially, whistleblowers are emerging as key players here.
Absolutely. Using tools like the False Claims Act and that revamped Whistleblower Awards program to expose the fraud.
And leading to some pretty substantial penalties for the companies caught.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we hope this exploration has given you all a clearer picture of this really fascinating and sometimes kind of hidden part of global trade.
Yeah, definitely. If you found this interesting, please do like and subscribe, maybe leave a comment. It genuinely helps us keep bringing these kinds of topics to you.
So maybe next time you pick up something imported, you'll think not just about the journey it took,
but also about those complex regulatory battles, the fights over its price, its origin, that might have happened before it even landed here.
Makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other complex systems out there might be facing similar kinds of challenges from people trying to game the rules?
That's a good thought. Until next time, keep exploring the complex world around us with the Daily Download.